The War Council meeting had been going on for 3 hours, and Admiral Chen could feel the weight of every minute pressing down on her shoulders. Around the circular table in the Unity Station Command Center, representatives from Earth's 12 colony worlds argued back and forth, their voices growing louder with each passing moment. "We should negotiate," said Ambassador Kowalski, his face pale even through the holographic projection. "The Kashari Dominion has conquered 47 civilizations in the past 2 centuries. We're barely 100 years into space travel. This isn't a fight we can win." General Martinez slammed his fist on the table. "And what exactly do we negotiate with?" "They've demanded complete surrender. Total annexation. Our people would become slaves in all but name." Admiral Chen looked at the tactical display hovering above the table's center. 5,000 Kashari warships formed a perfect sphere around Earth's solar system, each one 3 times larger than humanity's biggest dreadnought. The numbers made her stomach turn. Earth's entire defense fleet numbered barely 200 ships, and most of those were designed for colony protection, not full-scale war. "How much time do we have?" she asked quietly. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Park, checked his console. "The Kashari commander gave us 72 hours to respond. That was 60 hours ago. We have 12 hours left. 12 hours. Admiral Chen thought about her daughter on Earth, about the 3 billion people living on the home world, about the colony children who'd never seen Earth but called themselves human nonetheless. 12 hours to decide the fate of their entire species. "What about the other species?" asked Representative Williams from the Mars colony. "Can any of our allies help?" Ambassador Kowalski shook his head sadly. "The Verendi wish us well, but won't risk Kashari retaliation. The Pleiadian Collective sent their sympathies. The Syrian Trade Federation has already closed their borders to human ships." He paused. "We're alone in this." The room fell silent. Through the observation window, Admiral Chen could see Earth hanging in space like a blue jewel, peaceful and unaware of the doom hovering just beyond the outer planets. "There has to be something," General Martinez muttered. "Some weakness, some advantage we haven't considered." "There isn't," Lieutenant Park said softly. "I've run every simulation, every scenario. We last maybe 4 hours in direct combat, if we're lucky." Admiral Chen closed her eyes. 4 hours. Humanity's entire military force destroyed in the time it took to watch 2 movies. She thought about the last 1,000 years of human history. All the struggles and triumphs. All the art and music and love about to be erased because they'd had the misfortune of drawing the attention of something bigger and meaner. "Then we fight anyway," she said finally. "We fight, and we make them remember us. We fight so that whoever comes after has a story to tell about the species that refused to kneel." The room erupted in voices again, some agreeing, some protesting. But Admiral Chen wasn't listening anymore. She was looking at the tactical display, at the Kashari formation, and thinking about her daughter. The communications array suddenly blazed to life with an incoming signal. Every screen in the command center switched to show the same image. A Kashari commander, his 6 eyes arranged in 2 rows across his elongated skull. His scaled skin, the deep purple of Kashari nobility. "Humans," the Kashari commander said, his voice translated into flat, mechanical English. "Your time expires. Submit now, or witness the sterilization of your homeworld. You have 1 hour to broadcast your unconditional surrender across all channels. Fail to comply, and we begin bombardment." The transmission cut off before anyone could respond. 1 hour, Ambassador Kowalski whispered. "They gave us 3 days, and now? They're demanding an answer? In 1 hour? It's a dominance play," General Martinez growled. "They want us panicked and desperate." Admiral Chen stood up slowly. "Send word to all ships, battle positions. If we're going down, we're taking as many of them with us as we can." "Admiral," Lieutenant Park started to say, but Chen cut him off. "That's an order. And get me a direct line to the Kashari flagship. If they want our surrender, they can hear our refusal directly from me. The next 45 minutes passed in a blur of activity. Ships moved into defensive positions around Earth. Weapons, systems armed. Marines suited up. Families said goodbye over video channels, trying not to let the children see them cry. Admiral Chen sat in the command chair of her flagship, the Defiant, and watched the countdown timer tick toward 0. She'd recorded a message to her daughter, knowing she'd probably never see her again. She'd made her peace with death. The timer hit 0. Nothing happened. For 10 seconds, 20, 30, the Kashari fleet remained motionless. No weapons fire. No movement. Just silence. Tactical, what's happening? Admiral Chen demanded. Lieutenant Park frantically checked his instruments. I don't know, Admiral. The Kashari ships are just sitting there. They're not even powering up weapons. Then the communications array came alive again. But this time, it wasn't the Kashari commander. Every screen in human space activated simultaneously. Earth's surface monitors, colony communication systems, personal devices, even the heads-up displays in people's glasses and contact lenses, everything showed the same message. It wasn't video. It wasn't audio. It was pure mathematics, rendered in a way that every human brain somehow instantly understood, regardless of language or education. Halt. Terra Preservation Protocol engaged. Defensive systems activated. All hostile forces, stand down. What is this? General Martinez demanded over the command channel. Is this some kind of Kashari trick? But Admiral Chen was staring at her tactical display, where something impossible was happening. The Kashari weapons had fired, she could see the energy signatures, but the bombardment beams had simply stopped. Frozen in space between the Kashari fleet and Earth's orbital stations, the deadly energy hung motionless like flies trapped in amber. Admiral, Lieutenant Park's voice cracked. I'm reading quantum signatures. Throughout the entire solar system, Earth's moon, Mars, the asteroid belt, Jupiter's moons, they're all lighting up with energy readings that shouldn't exist. What kind of energy? I don't know. The computer says the signature is older than human civilization. Older than... He stopped, staring at his screen. Admiral. The dating algorithm puts these installations at approximately 65 million years old. The absurdity of the statement made Admiral Chen laugh, despite herself. That's impossible. Yes, ma'am. But the readings don't lie. Across every communication channel in known space, the mathematical message continued to broadcast. But now it was expanding, adding new information in that same strange universal language that bypassed translation entirely. Attention all spacefaring civilizations. This system is designated Terra, Cradle World Classification Alpha. Protective protocols have been in effect for 65 million cycles. Any hostile action against Terra, or its inhabitants, is forbidden. Violators will be neutralized. This is not a request. This is immutable law. Admiral Chen watched as her tactical display began showing something emerging from Earth's moon. Not from a crater or base, but from within the moon itself, as if the entire satellite was merely a shell around something else. The structure that unfolded was beyond anything she'd seen in human engineering. Geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. Surfaces that seemed to exist in more dimensions than the eye could process. Conduits of energy that pulsed with colors that had no names. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Size estimate? She asked weakly. The structure is larger than Earth's moon, Admiral. And there's more. Similar installations are activating around Mars, in the asteroid belt, and my God, there's something massive beneath Earth's oceans. The Kashari fleet suddenly tried to retreat. Admiral Chen watched as 5,000 warships attempted to break orbit and flee the system. They made it exactly 3 kilometers. Every Kashari vessel simply stopped, as if someone had pressed a cosmic pause button. No explosions, no visible force, just instantaneous cessation of all motion. The ships hung in space, like toys frozen in ice. Are they destroyed? General Martinez asked over the command channel. Negative, Lieutenant Park reported. Life signs are stable, power systems are functional, but they're completely locked in place. It's like something grabbed them at the molecular level and just held them. Admiral Chen thought about the message. Violators will be neutralized, not destroyed. Neutralized. Whatever had awakened in Earth's system, it wasn't interested in killing. It was interested in protecting. The mathematical message shifted again, and this time, it was accompanied by something that made every human in space catch their breath. Images. Memories. A historical record played directly into their minds. They saw Earth 65 million years ago, but not the Earth of primitive mammals and dying dinosaurs they'd learned about in school. This Earth had cities, towers reaching into the sky, creatures that walked upright on two legs, with scales and intelligent eyes, building machines and studying the stars. The proto-humans, the first children of Earth. They watched as these ancient people detected the asteroid, watched as they realized they couldn't stop it, watched as they built something in desperation, a guardian for their world. Programmed with a single directive: protect Earth's biosphere and any intelligence that evolved from it. The vision showed the impact, the extinction, the long millions of years as the Guardian waited in silence beneath oceans and inside moons, monitoring, preserving, hoping that life would try again. And then, finally, the emergence of humanity. The Guardian watching as humans discovered fire, built cities, split the atom, reached for the stars, watching and waiting for the moment when its children would face their first true test. This was that moment. The message concluded with a simple statement that echoed across 50 light-years of space, reaching every civilization within range. Terra's children are under protection. Any threat to them is a threat to this Guardian. Choose your actions wisely. In the command center of the Defiant, Admiral Chen sat in stunned silence. Around her, her crew stared at their instruments with expressions of wonder and disbelief. "What do we do now?" Lieutenant Park asked quietly. Admiral Chen looked at Earth hanging peacefully in space, protected by technology millions of years beyond human understanding, guarded by something built by creatures they'd never known existed. "I have absolutely no idea," she said honestly. And across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds and millions of ships, beings of 100 different species asked themselves the same question as they stared at the message still burning across their communication arrays. Humanity, the newcomers, the primitives, the species everyone had dismissed as insignificant, turned out to be the chosen children of something ancient and terrible and powerful beyond comprehension. The silence that followed that realization would echo through history for 1,000 years. The emergency session of the United Earth Council convened 18 hours after the Guardian's awakening. President Okonkwo sat at the head of the table in Geneva, surrounded by holograms of colony governors, military leaders, and scientific advisors. Outside the windows, crowds filled the streets. Some celebrating, others protesting, most simply confused and afraid. "Order, please," President Okonkwo said, though her voice carried little authority against the chaos. "We need to understand what's happening before we can decide how to respond." Dr. Sarah Chen, director of Earth's Deep Sea Research Institute, stood to present her findings. Her hands shook as she pulled up images on the main display. 48 hours ago, we didn't know these existed. Now, we've confirmed 17 major installations across Earth alone. The images showed structures that defied conventional architecture. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, a complex the size of Manhattan sprawled across the seafloor, its surfaces covered in patterns that seemed to shift when viewed directly. In the Sahara Desert, ground-penetrating radar revealed a network of chambers extending 300 kilometers down into Earth's crust. Similar discoveries emerged from Antarctica, the Amazon, the Himalayas, and deep ocean trenches around the globe. "The structures are all connected," Dr. Chen continued. "They form a planetary network powered by something our instruments can't properly measure. The energy signature is unlike anything in our physics textbooks. It's as if these installations are tapping directly into fundamental forces we don't have names for." Governor Nakamura from the Titan colony leaned forward. But who built them? The message said, 65 million years ago. That's when the dinosaurs went extinct. Dr. Marcus Webb, from the Paleontology Institute, took over the presentation. His face showed the exhaustion of someone who'd spent 2 days rewriting everything he thought he knew. Based on the historical data the Guardian transmitted, Earth's first intelligent species evolved from a branch of small theropod dinosaurs approximately 70 million years ago. They called themselves, well, the translation matrix renders it as the first walking. Though the actual concept is more complex, he displayed reconstruction images based on the Guardian's data. The creatures stood upright, about 5 feet tall, with arms that had evolved for manipulation rather than hunting. Their heads showed pronounced cranial development, and their eyes held an unsettling intelligence. They developed civilization over the course of 3 million years, Dr. Webb explained. Agriculture, writing, mathematics, eventually, technology. They built cities where our cities now stand. They studied the cosmos and understood their place in it. And then, they saw the asteroid coming. The room fell silent. Everyone knew this part of the story from the Guardian's transmission, but hearing it confirmed by a scientist made it feel more real. They had maybe 50 years of warning, Dr. Webb said quietly. Not enough time to stop it. Not enough time to leave Earth in meaningful numbers, but enough time to build this. He gestured at the images of the installations. A guardian, an artificial intelligence tasked with preserving Earth's biosphere and protecting whatever intelligence might evolve after they were gone. Why? Asked Admiral Chen, who'd been promoted to fleet commander in the chaos following the Guardian's activation. Why go to all that effort for a species that didn't exist yet? Dr. Webb smiled sadly. Because they understood something. We're only beginning to grasp. Intelligence is rare. Consciousness is precious. They couldn't save themselves, but they could make sure their world had another chance. They could protect their home for whoever came next. President Okonkwo rubbed her temples. And now, this guardian has revealed itself to protect us. What does it want? Unquote. What does it want? Perhaps we should ask it, said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's leading artificial intelligence researcher, entering the room. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, and her eyes held a strange mixture of fear and wonder. I've been attempting to communicate with the Guardian, she said. Standard protocols failed. This isn't like any AI we've built. But I tried something different. I used mathematical frameworks similar to the language it broadcast, and it responded. The room erupted in questions, but President Okonkwo silenced them with a raised hand. Dr. Tanaka pulled up a transcript on the main display. The communication was rendered in the same universal mathematical language the Guardian used, with approximate English translations below. Query: what is your designation? Response: I am the Sentinel. I am the promise. I am the last gift of the first walking. Query: what is your purpose? Response: to preserve this world, to protect those who inherit it, to ensure that the silence does not win. Query: why reveal yourself now? Response: because my children faced their first test. Because silence was no longer sufficient. Because the time for hiding has ended. The time for hiding has ended, General Martinez repeated. What does that mean? Dr. Tanaka pulled up more of the conversation. I asked it that exact question. Its answer was disturbing. Kieri, what did you mean by the time for hiding has ended? Response: for 65 million cycles, I have observed and protected without revealing myself. I have diverted asteroids. I have stabilized tectonic shifts. I have filtered radiation from solar events. I have guided evolutionary paths through subtle environmental adjustments. All in silence. All in secret. But a species cannot mature under invisible protection. When the Kashari came, I calculated two outcomes: intervene openly, or allow humanity to fall. The first risks creating dependency. The second guarantees extinction. I chose the lesser risk. X is I. Every three. The implications of that statement rippled through the room. The Guardian hadn't just awakened to protect them from the Kashari. It had been protecting humanity secretly, invisibly for their entire existence. "This is insane," Governor Patel from New Mumbai Colony said. "How many times has it intervened? What has it changed?" Dr. Tanaka scrolled through more responses. I asked. "It said it has made 4,127 major interventions in Earth's history, from preventing extinction-level asteroid impacts to subtly altering weather patterns during critical periods of human development." "That's manipulation," someone objected. "We're not free. We're pets in a cage it built." "We're alive," Admiral Chen countered. "Without its interventions, we'd have been wiped out a dozen times over." The argument might have escalated, but President Okonkwo cut in. "Does it intend to continue controlling our development?" Dr. Tanaka shook her head. "I asked that too." Its response was interesting. Query: "Will you continue to guide human development?" Response: "No. You have reached the threshold. You have developed space travel, encountered other species, faced existential threat. These are the markers. The training wheels, as your culture would say, must come off. I will protect, but I will not guide. You must choose your own path now. I will merely ensure that you survive to walk it." "So it's a guardian, not a dictator," Dr. Webb said thoughtfully. "It protects the garden but doesn't tell the flowers how to grow." Before anyone could respond, every screen in the room suddenly activated with a new message from the Guardian. "Attention. Terra leadership. Kashari war leader has demanded audience. Recommendation: accept communication. Observation: he is very frightened." That last line, delivered in the same flat mathematical language as all the Guardian's communications, somehow conveyed a sense of dry amusement that made several council members smile despite the tension. "Put him through," President Okonkwo said. The main display switched to show the Kashari commander from before, but he looked very different now. His scaled skin had paled to almost white, his 6 eyes darted nervously, and his proud bearing had collapsed into something approaching terror. "Humans," he said, his translated voice lacking any of its previous arrogance. "I speak for the Kashari Dominion. We have made a grave error. We did not know. We could not have known." "Didn't know what?" Admiral Chen asked coldly. "That you were protected by old technology," the Kashari commander said. "That Earth is a cradle world. These are legends among the older species, stories told to frighten children, worlds protected by guardians left behind by civilizations that came before. Most believe they're myths. Most believe they're myths." He paused, visibly struggling to compose himself. "The Dominion's sensors detected the quantum signatures around your system, but our analysts dismissed them as natural phenomena. We were wrong. We were catastrophically wrong." President Okonkwo leaned back in her chair. "And now, my ships are held in place by technology we cannot understand or overcome. My crew members are alive, but paralyzed. The Guardian has transmitted a message to our homeworld, to our Emperor himself, demonstrating capabilities that render our entire military obsolete. It showed us real-time surveillance of our throne room. It showed us the locations of our most secret military installations. It demonstrated that it could disable every weapons system in our empire, simultaneously, if it chose to do so." The Kashari commander's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "And then, it gave us a choice. Withdraw from your space, leave you in peace, and live, or continue to threaten you, and cease to exist as a civilization." The room sat in stunned silence. The Guardian had made the Kashari Dominion one of the galaxy's major powers, bend the knee in less than 2 days. The Dominion chooses life, the commander continued. We are withdrawing from all human territories. We are issuing a galaxy-wide declaration that Earth and its colonies are under ancient protection and must not be threatened. We are doing everything in our power to ensure that what happened here is never repeated. Because you're afraid, General Martinez said. Yes, the Kashari commander admitted without hesitation. We are very afraid. You have no idea what it's like to realize that something has been watching your homeworld, monitoring your every move, capable of ending your civilization with a thought. The Guardian is still watching us. We can feel its sensors on our skin, in our computers, embedded in the quantum foam of space around our planets. It will always be watching us now. President Okonkwo looked at her council, then back at the Kashari commander. What happens to your ships? Your crews? The Guardian said it would release them once we cross beyond your system's heliopause. It has given us safe passage out, and a warning never to return. We will honor that warning. I swear it on my ancestors and my descendants. The transmission ended, leaving the council in heavy silence. Well, Governor Nakamura said finally. That happened. Dr. Tanaka's console beeped with another message from the Guardian. She read it aloud. Observation. The Kashari speak truth. Their fear is genuine. They will not return. Query for Terra leadership. Do you wish me to release them now? Or maintain, hold for additional security period? Additional observation. Their crews require bathroom facilities soon. Their biology is inconvenient. The room erupted in surprised laughter at that last observation. Somehow, the idea of the ancient, powerful Guardian worrying about Kashari bladder capacity made it seem less terrifying and more protective. Like a very powerful parent watching over vulnerable children, President Okonkwo smiled despite herself. Tell it to release them. We're not monsters, and we don't need to prove anything. Dr. Tanaka relayed the message. The response came immediately. Acknowledged. Releasing Kashari vessels now. Recommendation. Prepare for incoming diplomatic requests from other civilizations. Prediction. Approximately 847 species will attempt contact within 2 hours. Observation. You will need bigger conference rooms. Admiral Chen laughed. Is it developing a sense of humor? I think it always had one, Dr. Tanaka said softly. It's just been alone for 65 million years, with no one to joke with. And across the solar system, as the Kashari fleet limped away toward the heliopause, the structures the Guardian had revealed began to hum with a frequency that humans could almost hear. Not threatening, not dominating, almost like singing. The Galactic Council convened for the first time in 200 years, and the tension in the chamber could have been cut with a knife. Representatives from 3,000 civilizations gathered in the ancient meeting station orbiting a neutron star at the galaxy's core. Some were present as holograms, others had sent drones, and a few brave souls attended in person. Ambassador James Okoye represented humanity, and he'd never felt more out of place in his life. 6 months ago, he'd been Earth's ambassador to the Pleiadian Collective, a comfortable posting dealing with minor trade disputes. Now he stood in a chamber where civilizations millions of years old discussed matters that affected quadrillions of beings, and every single one of them was looking at him. The speaker, an ancient being whose species had been traveling the stars before Earth's sun ignited, called the session to order. Its form was difficult to perceive directly, something that existed partially in dimensions human eyes couldn't process. But its voice came through clearly in the translation matrix. We gather to discuss the awakening, the speaker said. Terra. Earth. The forbidden world. That was not forbidden. Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. Ambassador Okoye noticed that none of them sat close to him. The nearest representative was at least 20 meters away, as if proximity to a human might trigger some kind of ancient wrath. For the record, the speaker continued, let the events be stated clearly. 23 standard cycles ago, the Kashari Dominion attempted military annexation of the human homeworld. In response, installations of unknown origin activated throughout the Terra system, demonstrating technological capabilities far beyond current galactic standards. These installations identified themselves as protective mechanisms built by a previous civilization native to Terra, approximately 65 million cycles past. A delegate from the Kashari Dominion stood, its skin still pale with fear. The Dominion acknowledges our error and accepts full responsibility. We did not know Terra was protected. The quantum signatures were dismissed as anomalous readings. We have withdrawn completely from human space and issued formal apologies. Noted, the speaker said. But the awakening has created ramifications beyond simple territorial disputes. The holographic display at the chamber's center activated, showing the Guardian's galaxy-wide broadcast. Every being present had seen it before, but watching it again in this context made it feel different, more real, more threatening. The entity calling itself the Sentinel transmitted this message across a sphere encompassing approximately 50 light-years. The speaker said, "Not as a request, not as a warning, as a statement of absolute fact. Terra is protected. Terra's inhabitants are protected. Any threat to them activates defensive systems that can, apparently, reach across interstellar distances." A delegate Ambassador Okoye didn't recognize stood up, its crystalline body refracting the chamber's light into rainbow patterns. "We must verify these claims. No civilization should possess such power. It destabilizes the balance." "Verify how?" another delegate asked. "By attacking Earth? By testing whether the Guardian's threats are real?" "The threats are real," said a soft voice from the back of the chamber. Every head turned to see a representative from the progenitors, one of the oldest known species in the galaxy. They rarely attended council sessions, preferring to observe from afar. That one had come in person was significant. The progenitor moved forward with slow dignity. Its body was humanoid in the vaguest sense, but its skin seemed to contain entire nebulae, stars being born and dying in the surface of its flesh. "We are old," the progenitor said. "Not as old as the Terra Guardian, but old enough to remember stories from our ancestors about cradle worlds, planets where intelligence arose naturally, where evolution ran its course without external interference. Such worlds are precious beyond measure, because they are vanishingly rare. Most spacefaring civilizations arose from worlds seeded by older species, or developed in environments influenced by previous cultures. True cradle worlds are perhaps 1 in a million." The progenitor paused, letting that sink in. "And some cradle worlds are protected. Their native species build guardians before extinction events, programmed with a single purpose: ensure the world gets another chance. We thought these were legends. Apparently, we were wrong." "Wrong." Ambassador Okoye found his voice. "How many cradle worlds are there? In this galaxy, known to us, perhaps 6, including Terra, now 7. But most had their guardians fail or run out of power over geological timescales. Terra's guardian has maintained function for 65 million of your years. That is unprecedented." The crystalline delegate from earlier spoke again, its tone aggressive. "This is still destabilizing. One species cannot have such protection, while others stand vulnerable. Then perhaps," the speaker said quietly, "other species should not threaten them." The chamber fell silent. Ambassador Okoye felt his communicator vibrate. A private message from Earth. He glanced at it and felt his blood run cold. "Excuse me," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "I've just received notification from Earth that the Guardian has made another demonstration." Every eye in the chamber focused on him. "What kind of demonstration?" the speaker asked. "The Guardian has simultaneously accessed the computer networks of every civilization represented in this chamber. It has displayed real-time surveillance footage of governmental seats of power on 3,000 homeworlds. It has mapped every military installation, every weapons platform, every strategic asset, across half the galaxy. The implications hit the chamber like a physical blow. The Guardian hadn't just protected Earth. It had proven it could reach anywhere in known space. It wants you to know, Ambassador Okoye continued, reading from the message, that it has been observing galactic civilization for the entire duration of its operation. It has watched empires rise and fall. It has monitored technological development. It has assessed threat levels. And it wants to make one thing absolutely clear. Harmonized. Absolutely. He looked up at the assembled delegates, these beings from species far older and more advanced than humanity, and delivered the Guardian's message. Terra is not a target. Terra's children are not pawns. Any civilization that forgets this will learn why there are so few cradle worlds left in the galaxy. The silence that followed was absolute. The crystalline delegate stood again. But this time its tone was different. Not aggressive. Afraid. What does it want? There must be something. Technology, resources, territory. Ambassador Okoye checked the message again. It wants nothing except what it was built to want. Terra's safety. Terra's children's freedom to develop. It says, and I'm quoting here, "I am not interested in galactic politics. I am not interested in trade or diplomacy or expansion. I am a guardian, doing exactly what I was built to do. Leave my children alone, and I will leave you alone." It's very simple. A delegate from a species Ambassador Okoye had never encountered spoke up. But humans will expand. They will build more colonies. They will encounter other species. Conflicts will arise. How do we interact with a species we cannot threaten, cannot pressure, cannot defend against? You treat them fairly, the progenitor said. You negotiate honestly. You respect boundaries. The way civilized beings should interact regardless of power dynamics. Another delegate, this one from a major trading consortium, raised a tentacle. But this changes everything. Economic negotiations, resource treaties, territorial disputes, all of these rely on a certain balance of power. If humans can simply invoke their guardian to tip any negotiation in their favor, we won't, Ambassador Okoye interrupted. Earth's government has issued a formal policy. We will not use the Guardian as a bargaining chip. We will negotiate fairly and honor our agreements. The Guardian exists to protect us from existential threats, not to give us unfair advantage in trade deals. And if you break that promise? The delegate asked. Ambassador Okoye smiled thinly. Then I imagine the rest of the galaxy will stop trusting us, stop trading with us, and stop talking to us. We'll be isolated and alone, which serves no one's interests, especially not ours. We have no desire to be galactic pariahs. The speaker gestured for attention. A practical question. Then, what are the boundaries of Guardian protection? If human ships venture into dangerous regions, does the Guardian protect them there? If humans colonize new worlds, do those worlds gain protection? Ambassador Okoye consulted his briefing materials. Dr. Tanaka had spent weeks trying to establish clear parameters with the Guardian. Based on our communications with the Sentinel, protection extends to human lives and human territories. If a human ship is attacked in neutral space, the Guardian will intervene. If humans colonize a new world, that world comes under protection. But, he emphasized, the Guardian also monitors human behavior. It has stated clearly that it will not protect humans who act as aggressors. If we attack someone else, unprovoked, we're on our own. It judges you? A delegate asked, surprised. It raised us, Ambassador Okoye said. According to its own records, it has been subtly guiding Earth's environmental development for 65 million years to ensure the best conditions for intelligence to re-emerge. It's been protecting humanity specifically for our entire existence. It knows us, it understands us, and yes, it judges us. He paused, then added, it told us that if humanity ever becomes the kind of species that uses its protection to bully or dominate others, it will withdraw its protection entirely. It didn't build us to become monsters. It built us to be better than the species that destroyed us. The progenitor made a sound that the translation matrix rendered as approval. Wise programming. The first walking understood the dangers of creating a protected species that might become corrupt. There's more, Ambassador Okoye said. The Guardian has made an offer to the Galactic Council. The chamber went quiet again. It has offered to share limited information about its creators. The first walking. Historical data. Cultural records. Scientific principles they discovered. Not weapons, technology, or defensive systems, but knowledge. It wants its creators remembered. It wants their story told. In exchange for what? The speaker asked suspiciously. Nothing. Ambassador Okoye said. It wants nothing in exchange. It simply believes that the first walking deserve to be remembered as more than just the builders of a guardian. They were artists, philosophers, scientists. They loved their world. The Guardian wants that legacy preserved. A delegate from a historical society stood so quickly it knocked over its chair. We would be honored to receive such records. The opportunity to study a civilization that achieved such technological heights. There are conditions, Ambassador Okoye interrupted. The information must be freely shared, not hoarded. It must be used for education, not exploitation. And any species that receives this knowledge must acknowledge the source. The first walking of Terra. The previous children of a cradle world. The speaker seemed to consider this. The Council will vote on acceptance of these terms. But I suspect I already know the outcome. Over the next hour, the Council discussed procedures, protocols, and practical matters. How to establish formal diplomatic relations with humans. How to adjust existing treaties to account for guardian protection. How to educate younger civilizations about the existence of cradle worlds and their guardians. Through it all, Ambassador Okoye sat quietly, watching civilizations millions of years old try to adapt to a universe where humanity suddenly mattered. Not because humans were stronger or smarter or more advanced, but because they were protected by something older and more powerful than anything else in known space. Finally, the speaker called for the vote on accepting the Guardian's offer of historical records. The result was unanimous. 3,000 civilizations voted to honor the memory of the first walking. As the session adjourned, the progenitor approached Ambassador Okoye. Your species is very young, it said, but you have been given a gift beyond measure. Not just protection, but time. Time to grow, to learn, to become what you're meant to be, without the constant threat of extinction. We'll try, Ambassador Okoye said. That's all anyone can do, the progenitor replied. We will watch your development with great interest. It has been a long time since a new cradle world species emerged. Your perspectives will be valuable. As the ancient being moved away, Ambassador Okoye received another message from Dr. Tanaka on Earth. The Guardian is pleased with the Council's decision. It says the first walking would have been proud. Also, it's asking if you need help getting home. Apparently, several species have offered you rides. But it wants to make sure you don't get, and I quote, inconveniently kidnapped by well-meaning anthropologists. Ambassador Okoye laughed quietly. The Guardian's dry sense of humor was becoming famous. And across the galaxy, on 3,000 worlds, beings of 1,000 different shapes discussed the awakening and what it meant for the future. Some were afraid, some were resentful, but most felt something unexpected. Relief. Because if one cradle world could be protected, could be given a chance to grow without fear of extinction, then perhaps others could too. Perhaps the galaxy didn't have to be a place of constant threat and competition. Perhaps it could be better. The Guardian had awakened, and in doing so, had reminded the galaxy what it meant to protect the precious and rare gift of intelligence. The silence that followed was not empty. It was thoughtful. 5 years had passed since the Guardian's awakening, and Earth had changed in ways both subtle and profound. Dr. Yuki Tanaka walked through the new Beijing research complex, her footsteps echoing in corridors that still smelled of fresh construction. This facility, like dozens of others being built across Earth and the colonies, existed for one purpose: understanding the gift the Guardian had offered. She entered the main laboratory where her team had been working around the clock for the past 3 months. Dr. Marcus Webb looked up from a holographic display, showing molecular structures that shimmered with mathematical beauty. "We did it," he said quietly. "The synthesis is stable." 1. Dr. Tanaka moved closer to examine the data. Before her eyes floated the blueprint for a material that didn't exist in nature. Something the Guardian had shared from the first Walking's archives. A room-temperature superconductor with properties that would revolutionize everything from power distribution to transportation. "No side effects? No instabilities?" she asked. "None. It's exactly as the Guardian's specifications promised." Dr. Webb's hands shook slightly. "Yuki, this is going to change everything. Energy transmission with zero loss. Magnetic levitation systems that cost almost nothing to operate. Medical scanners with 100 times current resolution. And the Guardian just gave it to us," Dr. Tanaka said wonderingly. Over the past 5 years, the Guardian had been true to its word. It had opened its archives gradually, carefully, releasing knowledge at a pace humanity could absorb. Not weapons, not defensive systems, but the peaceful technologies the first Walking had developed. Clean energy generation, disease treatment, materials science, agricultural techniques, and water purification systems. "Have you seen the latest global statistics?" Dr. Webb asked, pulling up another display. "Childhood mortality, down 43%. Famine eliminated in 17 formerly critical regions. Cancer survival rates up 62%. And we're only working with the first wave of technologies the Guardian shared." Dr. Tanaka nodded, but her expression was troubled. "And have you seen the protests?" Dr. Webb's smile faded. Outside the research complex, and in hundreds of cities across Earth and the colonies, groups had taken to the streets. Some carried signs reading, "Free humanity," and "We are not pets." Others proclaimed, "Reject the cage," and "Growth requires risk." The debate had been building for years, growing louder as humanity adapted to its new reality. On one side stood those who saw the Guardian as humanity's greatest blessing, a protector that allowed them to develop without fear. On the other stood those who viewed it as a cage, however comfortable, that prevented true independence. President Okonkwo called another emergency session. "Dr. Webb said, the free human movement has gained significant support. They're demanding a referendum on whether Earth should ask the Guardian to withdraw its protection." "That's insane," Dr. Tanaka said. "We're thriving. We're safer than we've ever been. Why would anyone want to give that up?" "Because safety and freedom aren't the same thing," said a new voice. They turned to see Dr. Jennifer Blackwood enter the laboratory. She was a xenopsychologist who'd spent the last year studying humanity's response to Guardian protection. And she'd become one of the movement's intellectual leaders. "Jennifer," Dr. Tanaka said carefully, "I didn't know you were visiting the facility." "No. No. 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 I'm here as an observer. The free human movement wants to understand what we're gaining from Guardian technology so we can make informed decisions about our future." Dr. Blackwood gestured at the superconductor blueprint. "This is remarkable. This will help billions of people. But at what cost?" "What cost?" Dr. Webb asked, incredulously. "It's free. The Guardian asks nothing in return. It asks for our dependency," Dr. Blackwood said quietly. "Every technology we accept, every crisis the Guardian prevents, every threat it neutralizes for us, these are opportunities for growth we're losing. How do we learn to solve our own problems if something always solves them for us?" Dr. Tanaka felt her frustration rising. "We're learning constantly. The Guardian doesn't give us finished products. It gives us knowledge. We still have to do the work. Develop the applications. Build the infrastructure. But we're learning from its curriculum. Dr. Blackwood countered, following its roadmap. The Guardian admitted it's been guiding Earth's development for 65 million years. How much of humanity's growth is genuinely ours? How much is the result of invisible manipulation? 2. It saved us from extinction multiple times, Dr. Webb protested. Yes, and I'm grateful for that. We all are. Dr. Blackwood's voice softened. But there's a question we need to ask. At what point does protection become control? At what point does guidance become manipulation? Before anyone could respond, every communication device in the building activated simultaneously. Dr. Tanaka's heart sank. That only happened when the Guardian wanted to communicate something important. The message appeared in the now familiar mathematical language that translated directly into human understanding. Observation. Humanity is experiencing ideological conflict regarding my presence. Assessment. This is healthy and expected. Recommendation. We should talk. Location. Pacific Installation. Alpha. Time. Immediately. If convenient. Invitation. Extended to representatives of all philosophical positions. Within hours, a hastily assembled delegation gathered at the coordinates the Guardian had specified. The Pacific Installation, one of the major Guardian facilities discovered 5 years ago, rose from the ocean floor on a platform that seemed to be made of solidified light. President Okonkwo led the delegation, flanked by representatives from the free human movement, the scientific community, religious leaders, and philosophers. Dr. Tanaka was there, along with Dr. Blackwood and several dozen others representing the full spectrum of human opinion on the Guardian. The platform brought them into a chamber that defied easy description. The walls seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, showing scenes from Earth's history. Dinosaurs, roaming ancient forests, the first walking, building their civilization, the asteroid impact, the long age of mammals, humanity's emergence, and finally the present moment. At the chamber's center stood a holographic form that coalesced into something approximating human shape. The Guardian had never manifested visually before, always communicating through text and mathematics. "Thank you for coming," the Guardian said, its voice somehow both ancient and gentle. "I have been aware of your debates. I have monitored your concerns, and I believe it is time for us to have a direct conversation about your future and my role in it." President Okonkwo stepped forward. "You've been watching us argue about you? I watch everything that happens on or near Earth. It's my function. But watching is not the same as judging." The Guardian's form shifted, patterns flowing across its surface. "I was built by beings who understood the dangers of creating a protected species. They programmed me with extensive guidelines about when to intervene and when to let events unfold naturally. The current conflict falls into the latter category." Dr. Blackwood spoke up, her voice steady despite the situation's surreal nature. "You've been guiding humanity's development. How can we know what's genuinely our achievement and what's your manipulation?" The Guardian's form pulsed with what might have been amusement. "An excellent question. Let me show you something." The chamber's walls changed, displaying a complex web of data streams. "This is a record of my interventions in human history. Every action I've taken, from preventing asteroid impacts to adjusting climate patterns to removing toxic algae blooms from critical water sources. 4,276 major interventions over 2 million years. The delegation stared at the sheer scope of it. "But here," the Guardian continued, highlighting certain nodes in the web, "are the moments I chose not to intervene. Wars, plagues, natural disasters I could have prevented but didn't. There were 163,000 such moments. Why?" someone asked. "Why not prevent all suffering? Because suffering teaches." The Guardian said simply. "The first walking understood this. They programmed me to preserve life, not prevent growth. I stop extinction events. I prevent total collapse. But I do not stop challenges, conflicts, or the painful lessons that build character and capability. The Guardian's form shifted again. When humans developed agriculture, I could have given you perfect weather. I didn't. You learned irrigation, crop rotation, selective breeding. When you developed medicine, I could have cured all disease. I didn't. You learned biology, chemistry, surgery. Every achievement you claim as your own truly is yours. I merely ensured you lived long enough to achieve it. Dr. Tanaka felt tears on her cheeks. Then why reveal yourself now? Why not stay hidden forever? Because you encountered the Kashari, the Guardian said. An existential threat I couldn't allow you to face alone. And once revealed, I cannot become hidden again. So we must adapt to a new relationship. President Okonkwo cleared her throat. There's been talk of asking you to withdraw, to give us complete independence. I am aware, the Guardian said. I have calculated the outcomes of such a request. The chamber fell silent, waiting. If I withdraw completely, the Guardian continued, there is an 87% probability that humanity will face another existential threat within 2 centuries. Without my protection, there is a 43% probability of extinction. However, if I remain as I am, there is a 72% probability that humanity will never fully mature as an independent species, always relying on external protection. The Guardian's form solidified into something almost human. So I propose a compromise. A graduation, if you will. Explain, President Okonkwo said. I will establish a 500 light-year protection zone around Earth and all human colonies. Within this zone, I will prevent existential threats, extinction-level events, genocidal attacks, civilization-ending catastrophes. But I will not prevent conflicts, disasters, or challenges that humanity can potentially overcome on its own. You will have freedom to grow, to struggle, to fail in small ways so you can learn. But you will not face total annihilation. And beyond the 500 light-year zone? Dr. Blackwood asked. Beyond that boundary, you are on your own, the Guardian said. If human ships venture into the greater galaxy, they do so without my protection. If you colonize worlds beyond the zone, those worlds are your responsibility to defend. You will have to negotiate, fight, adapt, and survive, using your own strength. The implications rippled through the delegation. A protected space to grow, but with boundaries. Freedom beyond those boundaries, but with all the risks that entailed. This is a test, someone said. This is a choice, the Guardian corrected. The first walking faced their extinction, knowing they could not save themselves, but they could save their world, could give it another chance. I am that chance, given form. But a chance is not a guarantee. It's an opportunity. The Guardian's form began to fade. I offer you 500 light-years of safety and a galaxy beyond it, where you must make your own way. Accept, and I will implement this new protocol. Refuse, and I will maintain current protection levels indefinitely. The choice is yours. How long do we have to decide? President Okonkwo asked. As long as you need, the Guardian said. I have waited 65 million years. I can wait a bit longer. The platform descended back to sea level, carrying a delegation deep in thought. As they returned to shore, Dr. Blackwood turned to Dr. Tanaka. What do you think? She asked. Dr. Tanaka looked out at the ocean, thinking about the vast installations hidden beneath the waves, about the Guardian that had protected humanity for so long, and about the choice now before them. I think, she said slowly, that the Guardian is offering us exactly what we need. Safety to grow, but space to become ourselves. It's not a cage, and it's not complete freedom. It's something in between, like being a teenager, Dr. Webb said, living at home but starting to venture out into the world. Exactly, Dr. Tanaka said. And eventually, we'll be ready to leave home entirely. But not yet. We're still too young, too vulnerable. Dr. Blackwood nodded slowly. I can accept that. My movement can accept that. As long as there's a path to full independence, eventually. There is, Dr. Tanaka said. The Guardian itself said so. 500 light-years now. But someday, when we're ready, we can venture beyond that. And when we do, we'll be strong enough to survive on our own. The vote came 3 months later. 73% of humanity chose to accept the Guardian's compromise. The free human movement, satisfied that there was a path to independence, threw their support behind the decision. And across Earth's system, the Guardian's installations pulsed with a light that might have been satisfaction as they reconfigured to implement the new protocol. 500 light-years of protection, and beyond that, a galaxy waiting to be explored. The training wheels, as the Guardian had said, were coming off, but not all at once. 500 years had passed since the Guardian's compromise, and Earth had transformed into something the 21st century could never have imagined. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Destiny's Child, watching the stars stream past as they approached the 500 light-year boundary for the first time in human history. She was the great-great-great-granddaughter of Admiral Chen, the woman who'd first witnessed the Guardian's awakening. Her family had served in Earth's exploration fleet for 5 generations, always pushing at the edges of the protected zone, always preparing for this moment. Approaching the boundary in 10 minutes, her navigation officer reported. Sarah looked at her crew, hand-picked from the best Earth and the colonies had to offer. 24 people from 12 different colony worlds, representing the spread of humanity across 200 inhabited systems. All within the Guardian's protective sphere. All safe. Until now. Status of Guardian protection systems? She asked. Her science officer, Dr. Kenji Yamamoto, checked his instruments. We're still within the zone. Full quantum signature coverage. The Guardian is watching us, as if in response to being mentioned. Every screen on the bridge activated, with a familiar mathematical message. Observation. Destiny's Child preparing to cross boundary. Assessment. Crew is adequately prepared. Emotional context. I am proud of you. Reminder. Beyond this line, you are on your own. Recommendation. Be careful. Additional observation. You have grown so much. Sarah felt tears sting her eyes. The Guardian had been watching humanity for 65 million years. But these last 500 years had been different. Humanity had known about their protector, had communicated with it, had learned to understand its dry humor and its genuine care. Send a response, Sarah said. Thank you for everything. We'll make you proud. The reply came instantly. You already have. The bridge fell silent as the countdown continued. Sarah thought about what humanity had achieved in 500 years under the Guardian's protection. Disease had been eliminated. Scarcity was a historical curiosity. 200 colony worlds thrived, each one developing its own culture while remaining connected to Earth and each other. Art, science, philosophy, all had flourished in an era without existential fear, but they'd also learned to fight, to defend themselves, to solve problems, without running to the Guardian for help. The first test had come 200 years ago, when a rogue asteroid threatened the colony world of New Harmony. The colony was within the Guardian's protection zone, but humanity had chosen to handle it themselves. They'd sent ships, deployed new technologies, worked together in ways that would have seemed impossible in the old days of nations and borders. They'd succeeded. The Guardian had watched, but not intervened. That had been the moment Sarah's grandmother claimed humanity truly grew up. 5 minutes, the navigation officer said. All crew. This is the captain, Sarah announced over ship-wide communications. In 5 minutes, we cross into unprotected space. For the first time in human history, we venture beyond the Guardian's reach. We do this not because we're running from protection, but because we're ready to stand on our own. We do this to honor the first walking, who built the Guardian to give their world another chance. We do this to prove that their faith was not misplaced. She paused, then added, and if we get into trouble out there, we handle it ourselves. No calling home for help. No expecting rescue. We're adults now. Time to act like it. A cheer went up from the crew. They were volunteers, every one of them, people who'd trained their entire lives for this moment. The first humans to venture beyond the safety of the Guardian's watch. 2 minutes, the navigation officer said. Dr. Yamamoto looked up from his console. Captain, I'm detecting ships ahead. Multiple vessels. Just outside the boundary. Sarah's hand moved to the weapons console. Hostile? Unknown. They're not moving. Just waiting. The main view screen activated, showing a loose formation of ships from a dozen different species. Sarah recognized some of the designs. Pleiadian traders, Syrian explorers, even a Kashari diplomatic vessel, all waiting just beyond the 500 light-year line. Open a channel, Sarah ordered. The face that appeared on screen was a progenitor, its nebulous skin swirling with ancient light. Sarah recognized it from historical records, the same being that had spoken at the Galactic Council 500 years ago. Captain Chen, the progenitor said, we have been waiting for this moment. Why? Sarah asked. Because we wanted to be here when humanity took its first free steps into the wider galaxy, to witness the moment when the Guardian's children left home. The progenitor's form shifted, conveying something like a smile. And to make sure you knew you weren't alone out here, other ships activated their communications, each captain offering greetings and support. The Pleiadian representative, who'd been Earth's first alien contact. Now, ancient, but still serving. A Kashari officer whose great-grandfather had commanded the fleet that first threatened Earth. Representatives from civilizations across the galaxy, all waiting to welcome humanity into the unprotected universe. We don't expect special treatment, Sarah said carefully. We're ready to make our own way. We know, the progenitor said, but friendship is not special treatment. It is freely offered and freely accepted. The galaxy has watched your species develop under the Guardian's protection. We have been impressed by your growth, your wisdom, your refusal to use your protection as a weapon against others. You have earned respect. The navigation officer's voice was soft. 30 seconds to boundary. Sarah stood straighter. Then let's do this right. All crew. Stations. Prepare for boundary crossing. She looked at the view screen, at the assembled ships, at the galaxy beyond Earth's protected sphere. 500 years of safety had not made humanity soft. It had given them time to grow strong, to develop technologies that made them competitive with species millions of years older, to build a culture of cooperation and resilience. 10 seconds, the navigation officer said. Sarah thought about Admiral Chen, who'd faced the Kashari fleet with 200 ships and no hope. Thought about President Okonkwo, who'd navigated the chaos of the Guardian's awakening. Thought about all the humans who'd lived and died in the past 500 years, building toward this moment. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Destiny's Child crossed the boundary. For a moment, nothing changed. The stars looked the same. The instruments read the same. But then Dr. Yamamoto looked up from his console, his eyes wide. The quantum signature is gone, he said. We're outside the Guardian's protection zone. 2-3. Sarah waited for fear to hit her, for the weight of vulnerability to settle on her shoulders. Instead, she felt light, free. How does it feel? Her first officer asked quietly. Like flying, Sarah said. The communications array activated again, but this time it wasn't the progenitor. Every screen showed the same message, transmitted from Earth across 500 light-years. Observation. My children have left home. Emotional context. I am experiencing what you would call pride and sadness in equal measure. Reminder. I am still here if you need me. But I do not believe you will. Prediction. You will do wonderful things. Final message. The first walking would have loved to see this moment. You are everything they hoped for when they built me. You are the answer to a question asked 65 million years ago. Can intelligence try again? Can it do better? The answer is yes. Sarah wiped tears from her eyes, not caring that her crew saw. Send a final response. Tell it we'll make the first walking proud. Tell it we'll make Earth proud. Tell it we'll be back to visit. The response came one last time. I know. I will be waiting. I will always be waiting. Because that is what Guardians do. The transmission ended. The Destiny's Child moved forward into unprotected space, and the assembled alien ships fell into formation around her. Not as guards, but as companions. On Earth, 500 light-years away, people gathered in streets and parks to watch the broadcast. Children who'd never known fear of extinction watched humanity take its first steps into true independence. Elders who remembered the old debates about freedom versus safety smiled and nodded, seeing the wisdom of the compromise validated. And beneath the oceans, inside moons, hidden in asteroids and deep in Earth's crust, the Guardians' installations hummed with a frequency that sounded almost like a parent watching their child leave home, proud. Over the next century, more human ships crossed the boundary. Explorers, traders, diplomats, scientists. They encountered dangers the Guardian couldn't protect them from, and they overcame those dangers. They made mistakes, and they learned from them. They built alliances, resolved conflicts, and carved out a place for humanity in the wider galaxy. And when threats arose that truly tested them, they handled those threats themselves, because the Guardian had given them something more valuable than protection. It had given them time to grow. 300 years after the Destiny's Child's historic crossing, humanity had spread to 1,000 worlds, half of them beyond the Guardian's protection zone. They were a major species in galactic politics, respected for their diplomacy, their innovation, and their refusal to use their protected status as leverage. The Guardian rarely communicated anymore. It watched, as it always had, but it had learned to let its children make their own way. But on the 500th anniversary of the boundary crossing, every communication device in human space activated with a message. Observation. You have done well. Assessment. The first walking would be proud. Emotional context. I am proud. Query. Would you like to meet them? Confusion rippled across human space. Meet the first walking? They'd been extinct for 65 million years. The Guardian's next message explained. Revelation. The first walking did not entirely perish in the extinction event. A small population escaped in generation ships, seeking new worlds while leaving me to guard their home. They hoped Earth would try again. They wondered if new intelligence would arise. They have been waiting in a distant part of the galaxy, patient and hopeful. I have maintained contact across the void. They wish to return. They wish to meet their world's second children. Question. Will you welcome them? President Kenji Sato, the leader of the United Earth Government, stood in the same Geneva chamber where President Okonkwo had once faced the Guardian's awakening. Around him, representatives from 1,000 human worlds debated the revelation. The first walking live. Someone whispered. In awe. They're coming home, another said. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, now impossibly old but still sharp, addressed the assembly via hologram. In all my years studying the Guardian, it never mentioned this. The first walking survived. Their descendants have been watching from afar, waiting to see if we were worthy. Worthy of what? President Sato asked. Of their world, Dr. Tanaka said simply. Of the Guardian they built. Of the chance they gave us. The vote was unanimous. Humanity sent a message back to the Guardian, simple and heartfelt. Tell them to come home. Tell them we'll share their world with them. Tell them we've been taking care of it. Tell them, thank you. Tell, 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 tell them, tell them, tell them. And in the depths of intergalactic space, ships older than human civilization changed course, turning toward a blue world they'd left 65 million years ago. The first walking were coming home. Earth's second children waited to meet them as equals, as partners, as fellow inheritors of a world that refused to give up on intelligence. And the Guardian, its purpose fulfilled beyond even its creator's dreams, hummed with satisfaction. Two species, both children of Earth, both shaped by the same blue world, meeting across the vast gulf of deep time. The silence that had held the galaxy in awe for 500 years broke into joyful noise. And across the void, every civilization that heard the story felt something they'd almost forgotten: hope. Because if Earth could try again, if intelligence could rise twice from the same world, if Guardians could wait 65 million years and see their faith rewarded, then perhaps the universe was less cruel than it seemed. Perhaps persistence mattered. Perhaps hope was not foolish. Perhaps, despite everything, despite extinction and entropy and the vast cold darkness between the stars, life found a way, and that was worth celebrating. The ancient guardian of Earth had awakened to save its children from destruction. But in doing so, it had given the galaxy something more precious than protection. It had given them proof that love endures, that sacrifice matters, and that even across the unbridgeable gulf of geological time, a parent's hope for their children can shape the future. The first walking had asked a question with their dying breath: will our world try again? And across 65 million years, two species answered together: yes, and we're so glad you waited to see it.